Welkom allemaal bij de webinar van Magic 4.7. Ik zie dat er een hele grote reeks aan aanmeldingen zijn geweest. Daar zijn we echt ontzettend trots op en heel erg blij mee. Mijn naam is Douzi Amat. Ik zal voornamelijk bezig zijn met de marketing van Magic Benelux. En tijdens dit webinar kunnen er vragen gesteld worden. Schrijf ze op en je kan ze achteraf dan stellen. Het liefst in het Engels, maar je zou ze ook in het Nederlands kunnen stellen. Dan zal ik ze vertalen naar de heren in Israël in Engels. Dan zal dat wel lukken. Ik zal voor nu heel graag we gaan nog heel even 5 minuten wachten totdat iedereen aanwezig is. Want ik zie nu dat we nog niet compleet zijn helemaal. Dus we wachten nog heel even 5 minuutjes. En dan zal ik het woord geven aan Peter, de CEO van Benelux. En dan starten we deze webinar.
Rod is saying that he has no audio, no sound. I hope that the rest of you guys did hear what he said. Okay.
Dus voor degenen die nu net binnenkomen, we wachten nog even een aantal minuutjes totdat we compleet zijn.
Douzi, I think we should go ahead.
Yes, shall we start?
Yep.
Oké, voor de mensen die nu weer binnenkomen. Mijn naam is Douzi Amat. Ik zal voornamelijk bezig zijn met de marketing van Magic Benelux. En nogmaals, vragen kunnen gesteld worden achteraf. Het liefst in het Engels. Dan kan ik ze meteen doorzetten naar de heren. Kan ook in het Nederlands, dan zal ik ze voor je vertalen. Ik wil het woord nu heel graag geven aan Peter Vos. Peter Vos is de nieuwe CEO van Magic Software Benelux. Peter?
Ja, dank je, Douzi. Yes, I will do it in English because I know we also have some English attendees. As you all know now, my name is Peter Vos. I am the new CEO of Magic Benelux. And we are here today for the first Magic Benelux webinar. Normally the marketing team now had arranged a nice setup for this webinar, but unfortunately I had to go into quarantine the last minute. It's good to see such a great attendance for this webinar. After this webinar, we hope to be able to stimulate and help you update the latest versions, and at the same time make contact with us. Our long-term goal of building a good Magic community. I want to thank you all for attending, and I would like to hand over the floor to Yuval Oded and Yuval Asheri and Yuval Lavi. Thank you.
Nogmaals, also in English now. For all the questions, of course, you can use the chat, and after the webinar, we will try to answer all of your questions.
Good. So, hi guys, welcome. I'm very disappointed not to see you guys all with a glass of beer in your hand and do a Magic Cafe as we used to do. Hopefully, we'll get back to this style of meeting in the near future. But for now, let's take the benefits of what we have and what we can do now. And it's doing over the internet. I'm very happy that you're joining us for the first gear session out of our 5 planned gears that we want to do in the near future in the next few months. The first gear will be focusing on Magic 4.6, 4.7, client server, RIA, the traditional Magic as we know it, but then we'll move into the next gear into more interesting stuff like CI/CD, Git implementation, and then we'll talk about Magic Web, RESTful services, and the new web client technology that we have. So we have a lot of new exciting things coming up. I will go with you a little bit about the roadmap just to keep you on the same page, but after that, Oded and Yuval Asheri will take you through some demos and codes and features that we implemented. So when we look at the roadmap of Magic, we put 2 points or 2 focuses, vocal points that we have on the agenda. One is the web client. It's definitely the most exciting and the most interesting stuff that I think Magic did in the last 15 or 20 years even. And the other thing is what we call the CI/CD methodology and philosophy. This is all the things that are around Git, branching and merging, automation, pipelines, etc., etc. So on our web client front, we have put our focus on allowing you guys to deliver big Angular-based application, which easy to maintain, easy to develop, and take for long years as you used to do with any other application based on Magic. This is the idea, the low-code methodology that we did for the last 35 years, but taking it into Angular development. In the web client part, we released version.
We can't hear you, Yuval.
Yuval, you're muted. Yeah, can you hear me now? I don't know, for some reason I turned on.
Yeah, it was just the last 2 sentences.
Yeah, so we released 4.7 already last month, and with the great features, a big set of features for web client as well. We see customer adoption, and we see customer actually doing project by themselves, so this is very, very exciting. We try and still bring a lot of training, hands-on, and help and guidance in the ease of migration from client server and RIA to the new web client. In the CI/CD front end, as I mentioned, full Git support, and we have a nice add-ons and features into 4.7, all related about Git and making life of working with Git and branching and merging much easier. We are going to allow deploying based on Docker, but an official image. As you know, you can already deploy Magic on Docker, no problem by yourself, but our idea is to deliver you official images that you can work and ease of work with the Magic Dockers. We are going to enhance the studio mainly and allow you to do automation and things in the CI/CD pipeline in order to make it more usable and much more robust in the process. And we're going to add Alk stack to our solution. That means Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana as part of our deliverables that will allow you to do monitoring on top of the application, but not only on the Magic monitoring, but also monitoring for the business logic of your application, and it will become as part of the Magic solution platform. If I'm looking a little bit towards the future, as I said, a lot of the future is around the Magic Web Client. We keep on enhancing our engine and improving the engine. This is an ongoing process that will stay with us for a long time. But we know that the main focus with it we need to put now is actually the ease of the UI UX. Today, when you do the Magic Web Client, you need to do the development of the HTML, CSS as any other platform, mainly in Visual Studio or Visual Code platform. But we want to bring a Wysiwyg environment for you to be able to design much easier, as we as magician like and used to from the past years. And as I said, deployment, one-click deployment of a Docker container, monitoring, etc., to make life easier there. So what we are working now and will be available somewhere before the end of Q2 next year is our new Wysiwyg Multi-Experience Studio. We will provide a studio that is a drag and drop studio, point and click, that will allow you to design any HTML, CSS look and feel that you want. You can, as I said, drag and drop widgets, you can write code, you can update properties, and everything will impact actually your UI component. We will provide it with a set of templates. You can create your own templates for an application template, a screen template that will speed up and have your application with one look and feel. The idea is really to be able to build what we call the single page application in a very nice and fast way, and to provide the option of building any Angular application with an open and simple Wysiwyg Studio. That means that you can extend the studio, you can write your own widgets to the studio. It will be very easy for you to take it forward and to customize it to your own need. So this is what we have in our roadmap going forward. As I said, a lot of exciting stuff. We are excited about those new things. But today we're going to focus about a little bit more about what you have today, the traditional Magic XPA. And I will pass it to Oded now to demo and show you a little bit of the new features that we implemented in the latest versions. So thanks you all. Please ask as many questions as you want. We'll try and give you all the answers if we can do it in the online meeting, and if not, we can do it afterwards. But please stay with us. So Oded, you can take the presentation.
Can you hear me? Oded, you can speak through. We're having a bit of a technical difficulty here with Oded. Can you hear me now? Yuval, can they hear me? They should. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Let me share my screen. So we have some difficulties, technical difficulties, but let me know. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. So let's start with the runtime UI. With the runtime UI UX. Yuval Asheri, you're my assistant. So if any technical issues, let me know, okay? Sure, I'm here. Okay, so our first item is, these are the list of items that we have developed since version 4.6. These features are oriented to client server and RIA as well. So you can find them in both development paradigms. And we start one by one. You will see that most of them are quite fascinating and long time required by our customer. I've built a sample application to show you each and every one. We will go through runtime and we will go through development as well. Okay, so let's start with the first one. The table freeze column. The table freeze column. This is something that you are all aware from Excel and things like that. You can define the number of columns that you would like to be freezed, whether it is 0, 1, 2, or more. You have the ability to define the divider, the color of the divider. We have a full scroll behavior, natural behavior that will allow you to jump from one column to another. Of course, taking into account that some of the columns are free. And as I said, we have multiple columns control. And you can also allow the user whether to do the freeze in runtime using the context menu. So let's go and see that. So this is our main program to demonstrate all the new feature. So let's take a look here at the table freeze. You will see that by default I have freezed the first column only. So if I tab around, you see the description stays as the other columns are being scrolled. And if I right click here, if I right click on the column, I can unfreeze it, and then the table becomes like a regular table. And if I want to freeze from the second column, so the first and the second one will be freezed, then you can see that by right clicking here, when I do freeze, it is being freezed. So the user can also do that. In runtime. Okay, so if we look at the program in number 57, you will see that when we talk about development time, it is very, very simple, and the definition of a column of a table to be freezed is here, where you can define. You can define the number of columns by default to be freezed, whether it is fixed or an expression, and you can define here the color, which color you would like to have as a divider, and whether you would like to allow that in runtime, yes or no. Okay, so the definition is very, very simple, straightforward, and the behavior is, as I mentioned, very natural. Just to make sure that you do not freeze too many columns, so that if you freeze too many columns, then you can just scroll around, but you don't see anything. Okay, I'm actually scrolling through the other columns, but I don't really see them because the space of the table is too small for that. So you unfreeze and freeze the correct amount of columns. Okay, good. Let's continue with the next one. So this is table freeze column. Autocomplete. Autocomplete is also a very nice feature that we actually combine the combo box capabilities into an edit box, while allowing not only a fixed amount of values, but also data source support, just like we have in the combo box. And as I mentioned, everything is available in online and real. So let's take a look at the autocomplete. So here we have the autocomplete. We have two options. One is suggest, okay, and one is append, and we can also have a combination of that. So let's see. If I'm talking about days, so I have the list of days. I'm pressing the S. So as you can see, this is the suggest option, where it is actually opening a combo box for us, and we can select whatever we want. But I'm not limited to the values that are happening in the combo box, because I can type anything, because remember, this is a regular edit control. Okay, so this is the suggest the suggest option, opening a combo box. And the append option is slightly different. It's just like Google is suggesting you to, it's appending you the letters that he thinks are correct. So if we put here May, then it is May, and so on. And so this is the option of append. If I put A, I will get the April, and so on. Another option is that I've implemented here is that, okay, let's say I'm pressing A, okay, I'm getting April and August. Keep in mind that we are talking about both options, okay, suggest and append. So when I put A, I also see the April in the combo box and the April in the data. Now see that I put April 2, for example, and I press tab, okay? And then I go inside and I press A. You see that April 2 was added to the list. Okay, I'm putting April 3 and pushing around, going around, putting A, and I see that April 3 was added. So this is a very nice implementation for history. If you have an application that the user is looking for items and you want to have an history of what he entered before, then you can implement that. I will show you in a minute how did I implement that. But what is also important here to see the both options. I see also the combo box and the suggest itself. And this is from data source. So here I have the list of all the cities in the world. So if I press A, you see that all the capital cities in the world that are starting with an A are opening. And here again, whether I can use the combo box or the suggest. Let's take a look at how this is being implemented. We go here. We go to the program. So first of all, you can see that these are simple edit controls, just like you're used to. But we do have here, one second. Okay. We do have an option of none, which is the default one. So far, this is what we had. We have the append, we have the suggest, and we have the suggest and append. And here we can set the item list, and in case of a data source, you see that it is coming from the data source. Where is it? Here we define the data source just like you define that in a combo box. And let's take a look at how did I implement this one. It's a very, very simple implementation. Here what I did was set it to suggest and append to both options. And here I put, this is where I set the mode. And here I put the list, which is the fixed one, including an expression which is actually a variable. And you can see that whenever I go control suffix of this control, whenever I go control suffix with this control, I'm adding this value to the variable I that holds all the values comma separated. Okay, and I'm adding the value which is f, which is the value of this control. Just of course in case there is no, it's not inside already. Okay, so if I would put twice April 2, I will get it only once in the code, in the combo box. Okay, so if I run it again, the autocomplete, very quickly, I'm going here, putting April, I see only one, April 1, going out. Now it is being added to the variable. I'm pressing A, I can see April 1 here. Very simple implementation. Okay, let's continue. So this is the autocomplete. Guys, I remind you, if you have any questions regarding these features, write it down in the chat. At the end of the session, we will be reviewing them and answering. Zoom button. I believe that you as a Magic developers were struggling with the zoom button all the time, especially when you wanted to have a button next to an edit control, but you didn't want to lose focus from the edit control. You want that the zoom will be open, but the focus will not be lost from the edit controls because of kind of verifications and links and so on. So you have to struggle with that and have two controls. One is for the edit and one is for the button, and struggle between them and make sure that the values of the edit controls are not being, control suffix and so on. So we have combined them both to be one edit control with the zoom button support. We support images or a fixed 3 dots, and of course you can control the color, and we also support that in the model. And this is the most important thing: it does not lose focus. So if we take a look again in our program, we have here the zoom button. So you can see we have an image one and we have one with the dots, and we can we enter that. And you see, I put an alert on the control suffix of the control, and only now the alert was invoked. You see, if I select another city, only when I push the tab, okay, I get the alert. So I do not get the alert when opening the zoom, okay, which is very important. And again here, this is another way to do that. Okay, if we look at the code, let's go and take a look at the code. let's take a look at the zoom. You see here the control topic is being activated only one time leaving the control and not when pressing the zoom. And okay, this is one control, it's not two, it's one control, as you can see. And here we can see here. And here we can see what is the zoom button, whether we want it to be true or false, and the properties, whether we'd like to use color or whether you would like to use an image. Here we set that whether it is a push button or an image control, and whether we'd like to have a tooltip and so on. But from functionality point of view, very simple, straightforward, and of course very convenient for data handling in terms of edit and zoom. So this is regarding that. Let's move to the next one. Auto drop-down. Auto drop-down is also very, I think that from the early age of hotspots at that time, it was requested by customers, allowing you to move to a combo box and have it auto drop-down immediately. So we have this new feature, new property for the combo box. The control go-to is also supported. So if you click on a control go-to, and if the combo box is not modifiable, then it will not be opened automatically. So let's take a look at that. Auto drop-down. Okay, so this is just a simple edit control. Here it's a combo box without any auto drop-down, and when I press the tab, as you can see, I'm pressing the tab, one tab, second tab, and it is being automatically being opened. And this one, although it is auto drop down, it is disabled, so it's not being open. I'm pressing now Shift tab. You see that it is being open automatically. And if I click on the control go to, again, it is going here, being opened automatically. So if we look at the code here, at the auto drop down, again, very simple property, defines everything. Sorry. Auto drop down. 6. So it's the second. Yeah. So what we see here is if I do it here, you will see here auto drop down being set to true, which the default was, of course, false. And if we look at the control go to, clicking on the control go to, it's just control go to as you are familiar with, and everything is being done automatically. Let's continue. Scaling. Scaling is a very, very nice feature that allow you. We are all familiar with, with the struggle or with the challenge that you might have with a very, very packed screen with a lot of controls, and that in order to have them to accommodate all the controls, you have to put very small labels and very small fonts and so on. So scaling is allowing you in runtime only, is allowing you to increase the size of the screen without doing anything, just setting one property on the form. So let's take a look at that. If I go here to my start program, okay, my start program, if I go to the form, okay, so you see here that I have allow scaling equal yes, okay? We didn't have this property before. So the whole form, the whole start program is being scaled, okay? So if I press now F7, you will see here that the bottom of my screen at the right bottom, you see that I have a list of percentage that I can choose from. So if I put 200, everything is being increased automatically. I will go back to 100, okay? So if I go to the table freeze, for example, and I'm increasing it, okay, I'm increasing it to that, everything is increased, not only the size, also the font, everything is increased. So it allows you actually to have a very packed screen or packed form, but the user will be able to increase the size of, especially, old guys that need the glasses or something like that. It will be very convenient to them just to enlarge the percentage where the screen is increased. So if we look at this one, for example, I'm going back to 100. So here I put all the controls that we have, and you can see that all of them are being increased. And also Magic is supporting You know, if you tap to, of course, since you increase the size, you get the scroll bars, which makes sense if you want to accommodate all the controls, all the increased controls. But also, if you press tab, Magic will take you directly to the parked, to the park control, even if it's needed to move around the scroll bar. So it will be done automatically. Okay, so this is regarding scaling. Very, very nice feature. Remember that this is only in runtime, and also remember that we also increased the font size. Scroll bar. Scroll bar is also very nice and interesting. Very nice and interesting feature. Until now, when you had a table with many records, and you clicked on the scroll bar, you actually got an incremental scroll bar, which is more like doing page down, page down, page down. So the incremental mode was the default mode. If you wanted to go from record number 1 to record, let's say number 700, you have to do the equivalent time of page down, page down. You couldn't really scroll directly to the 700 and skip all the, you know, the, I don't know, 600 records in between. So we've added a new mode to a table which is called absolute, and will allow you to do to go directly where you would like to go in the table. You don't need to do any preload data view. Everything is being done behind the scenes by SQL commands. And also we are supporting locate, and range. And the scroll bar is adjusting dynamically based on the new range that you might have. So let's take a look at that. It's a very strong feature. Yeah. So here I have a table with 1,000 records, and I have a locate function on 50. So you can see that the scroll bar starting a little bit below the top, not exactly. So if I go here, you see that I'm doing now control 1, so I can see that I have from 1 until 1,000. Okay. So I'm clicking again. I'm running the program again. So you can see that I'm located on 50, and you see that the scroll bar is relatively to the 50 place of the record. Now I'm going here. Okay, I'm going around here. So I assume that if I do right click here on the scroll bar and I do scroll here, it's supposed to be around 800. Okay, so I'm jumping exactly to 850. Okay, now keep in mind that the records were not fetched from 1 to 800. Only the records starting from 848 were fetched down based on the chunk size. Okay, so only these records were fetched. So if I'm going to do arrow up, Magic will go to the database and bring the new records as needed. Okay, so this is one thing. Now here I'm going to apply a range that will be between 100 and 300. So I'm applying now the range, okay, and you can see that I have 100, Control N to 300. Okay, so now the range is smaller than 1,000 records. Okay, so if I click here, for example, scroll here, okay, so I'm going to get to 100 and something. Okay, so you can see that the scroll bar is sensitive or is fully aware to the range, to the data range that you have. Behind the scenes, believe me, it's a lot of logic just to make sure that it is fully optimized and we are not reading records for nothing. Okay, now let's take a look let's take a look at how you define that. So we can see it here on the table that we have here, the scroll bar time, whether it is absolute or incremental. Okay, and when I did the apply range, what I was doing is just applying. I don't know if all of you are aware about this function, range add. And if you refresh, so I just changed the range to be between 100 and 300. So this is regarding scroll bar, a very strong feature. a lot of logic behind the scenes, just to allow you to do the scroll here context menu and allow you to jump to the right place. Control style for the sake of backward compatibility, we've also added some styling options like a background color for radio buttons, and also allowing you to define a color for a disabled control. So it will not be by default gray. You can have that per control, or you can have a global INI setting that will define it throughout the application. And I think that we are done by that. I'm sorry for the technical issues, but I hope it was productive. Thank you, guys.
Okay. I will share my screen right now. Right, so we're now dealing with the rest of the agenda for today. We have more or less until 2 p.m. So that leaves us with about 20 minutes to cover all of this. We're going to deal with a few issues here. One regarding the server, single comment regarding 64-bit, a bit news about rich client and mobile. Now you can see my face as well. We'll deal a bit with new stuff in the studio, some database issues, a few functions, and some general comments. By the way, this is all of this stuff that we're going to go through here is kind of a conglomerate of what we did in 4.6 and 4.7 together. So this is just keeping you up to date with what we've done so far. Like Yuval said, with the classic client server and rich client applications. So let's move forward. The server. We've come out starting with version 4.5 actually with a 64-bit server background engine. We are still regarding the client, the runtime engine with the UI. It is still 32-bit. We're not planning on making it 64-bit. Only the server itself, which runs in background mode, can be a 64-bit engine, which will allow you, of course, to grow to 64 GB of memory and run more threads. So this is really something that's required when you're dealing with a background engine. An important comment here, when you run through the studio itself requires 32-bit, since it is a 32-bit studio itself, requires a 32-bit database client. So if you're going to do get definition or anything that has to do with the database itself, you should also install a 32-bit client on your development machine. On the runtime machine, if it's a runtime client, you will need a 32-bit client. If it's a runtime server, an engine that supports a rich client application or a merge application, then all you need is a 64-bit database client. Okay, a few things regarding rich client. If you remember just a few minutes ago, Oded spoke about the scaling option. We've also added that to rich client applications. So you have it there as well. We're trying to keep the rich client and the client server applications in the same pace. Sometimes we don't finish everything, but usually then service pack afterwards, we're done with the whole feature. So now we've added this capability to rich client applications as well. We've also added the scroll here option, which I just described a few minutes ago. So this exists in rich client applications, just the same as it does in online applications, client server apps. A few additions to mobile. We're trying again to keep up to date with the latest and greatest of what we need in order to provide you with the ability to create Android applications and iOS applications. But again, since you just write the application and you don't really develop the APK or IPA, we actually do that for you. We need to keep up to date with the libraries. So for instance, with Android, we've changed our infrastructure to Android Jetpack, which is a suite of libraries that Android recommends and deals with mainly with less memory leaks and backward compatibility issues that are solved, because with Android there are, I would say, about 5 main operating systems right now being used by the community in the world, going back from Android 10 to Android 7 more or less. So there is a need that the applications will work fine with all of the versions there. We've also, our Android client is now compliant to 64-bit. This was a restriction that was given by Google. Regarding iOS, we now support iOS 13, and from the development side of the code, we support Xcode 11. We've also actually tested our iOS client with iOS 14 as well, in version 4.7. So that, again, we're trying to keep up with the latest operating systems and whatever changes that we need to implement in these clients, so that you can create up-to-date applications and load them to the App Store or the Play Store. We've added a property, an interesting property that's called Keep Awake, which is sometimes needed in mobile applications where you want the application to be awake all the time. A classic example would be Waze or some kind of a navigation system, anything that you want the application to stay awake and disregard the timeout that is defined in the device. We removed the ZBar SDK from our offering. It's not in the client anymore, and this is a barcode reader library. So if you want to use barcode, you need to move to Pick-to-Shop. Our examples also changed so that they will show you how to use Pick-to-Shop and not ZBar, which was an old and unsupported library. A few words about the studio. We've added some interesting changes and enhancements, and the first one would be a more enhanced and strong APG, automatic program generator, and table relation definition. Now, what we give you is the ability, first of all, to define relations between tables based on your ERD, whatever relations you have between the tables, whether they are one-to-one relationships, one-to-n, n-to-one, or even n-to-n. You can define those relationships, and after you've done that, you can build an automatically generated program based on these relations. Again, these relations are there solely for one purpose only, and that is to provide you with the ability for a very strong jumpstart regarding your programs. Let's have a look at this for a second. Okay. So here is a classic entity relationship diagram. As you can see, 6 tables, and they all have relationships between one another. Again, these relationships are something that you, the developer, know about. It's not something in the database, not any information that can be retrieved from anywhere. It's something that you know. For instance, there is a many-to-one relationship between the order header table and the customer table. So how would you go about defining such a relationship? Again, order header and customer. Let's go to the data source repository. We have a tab called relations. We already have 2 relations here, but I'll just show you how to do it. Again, we have a relationship between the header and the customer. It would be a one-to-many relationship as we defined it. We choose the reference table and we specify which column it is that we want, or columns that we want to match. So here we choose the customer ID, and in the reference table we also choose the customer ID. So now we have another relationship. Of course, this relationship creates a parallel relationship in the reference table, so that each relationship that we define on one table would cause another entry in the other table, so that table also has the exact same relationship, only in the other direction. Instead of many-to-one, one-to-many, and of course one-to-one would result in one-to-one. So we've defined all of the relations here between the different tables. You can see each table has its own set of relationships between the different tables. And we will go to the city table, for instance, and run Control R, which is the new APG, similar to Control G. We can choose whether we want to generate rich client, web client, or just simple browse programs. We can choose the name and the folder, of course. And let's go for something simplistic like just choosing the two tables that I have a one-to-many relationship with, and that's it. I will generate a program and see what happens with it. So if we scroll into it, you'll see that since this was a one-to-many relationship, I had two subtasks here with arguments passing back and forth. And if I run this program, then you will see the most upper task and subforms that were created according to the selected relationships, to the tables in the relationships. So that's an interesting choice. We'll just do one more thing here. We'll press again Control R. This time we will just choose one of the tables and go down all the way with the relationships. As you can see, there are relationships here that keep on going down until there is no place to go. So we've defined all of these relationships that we want in the generated program, and we'll press OK. We'll see what happened here. Wait a minute, I think I got it right over here. Okay. So now you can see that I have quite a few subtasks here, and I have links wherever needed with the many-to-one relationships. With the one-to-many relationships, I have subtasks. So I can actually run this program. And as you can see, well, it's quite deep, like 4 levels deep here. But you can, of course, decide how deep you want to go. And of course, wherever you click, the right records appear in the subform and in the sub of the subform and so on. So this is the APG. Next on the studio, we have the ability to expand and collapse block operations in order to have an easier look and understanding of the logic units. So if we just go into one of the programs, you will see that we can expand, collapse the blocks. And if we continue on and writing blocks, then we have the expanding and collapsing here. And of course, I can collapse everything and expand everything. So again, easier readability for the program. Another interesting and very, very useful feature within the studio is the ability to see expressions, actually variable values in the expressions while debugging. So if you're running a program and you want to see what's in the expression, you will see that right now once you're in a breakpoint. Magic will place the values of these variables within the expression while debugging. We've allowed customizing of colors for columns in the link operation so that you will see, once you've configured that color, you will see the link operation in a different color, actually the columns in the link operation. We've moved from Visual Studio Isolated Shell 2010 to 2015, which is the latest provided by Microsoft, and it is still supported by Microsoft for another few years. And once that's finished, we will see what we can do at that stage. We've allowed for copying and pasting logic lines in between tasks and across programs even. But again, you have to just small disclaimer here, when you copy a piece of code from one task to another or from one program to another, you might be referencing objects that don't exist in that task that you're copying to. For instance, a local variable, for instance, an event, but things that do exist here, things from the main program, or if you've copied from a subtask to a parent task, and you've referenced the parent variable, then this variable will exist, so the copy will work for you. So the pasted code needs refinement. This is important to understand. Let's have a look at this. So if we go into a subtask and we see we have, if we look at the event list, we see that we have a few events from a parent task and a few events that were defined locally here. So that if I copy these two event handlers and I copy them to an upper task and I just paste this logic, you will see that some of the logic got lost. For instance, this event itself called select exists because it came from an ancestor task, but this event is now gone. The subtask that I referred to is no longer referable because there is no subtask here to call to. But the variable that I updated, which came from a parent task, is still referenced. So the same rule applies again for copying from a program to another program. And in that case, of course, you can only refer to objects from the main program. So this is the ability to copy and paste logic from within tasks to programs. Let's go on. We've added support for long names in tasks and of course programs. And as a result, we've allowed the same limitation of 100 records, 100 characters within form names. So this is for your convenience. A few database enhancements. First, we've added a new native PostgreSQL database gateway. This is part of our strategy of being ready for Linux and being ready for Dockers, because we believe that this database will be used widely on Linux platform. So the gateway is now available for you. You do need a special license in order to use a runtime engine with this gateway, but the studio licenses do come with that license inside. So there's no need for you to ask for it when you're developing. Once you decide to deploy, you will need a special license for that, and you need to approach the branch in order to get that license. We now support physical locking from MySQL, similarly to what we did with Oracle and SQL Server. We support physical locking, so that now if you decide to move your application from Oracle or SQL Server to MySQL, and you previously used physical locking, the select for update or the UPD lock in SQL Server, then your application will behave in the same manner when moving to MySQL. And this is part of what we're trying to do with having software houses changing their application, adding one more offering, one more database easily. We've added an option to use SQLite as a kind of a temporary database. But remember, SQLite is a single user database. So what happens here is that if you use this special flag called tempdb equals y, then each thread will create its own SQLite database, will store whatever you need in it. So this will be a kind of a memory table, but with a SQL interface, which is more neat than just using a memory table. Regarding direct SQL, we've added support for what's called the with clause. The with clause uses something that's referred to as a CTE, common table expression, which is an ad hoc definition of kind of a view, so that if you do use this kind of a syntax, it is now supported from within direct SQL and Magic. We've added support for MySQL version 8. We've added support for binding in Oracle with statements that don't return a result set. Up until now, you could use binding, the tilde sign, with statements that do return a result set. So this is an enhancement, so to speak, regarding the use of Oracle and binding. You actually just, so whoever uses Oracle when you do use binding, then the statement is prepared and is stored prepared in the database, which brings on a performance boost. We've added support for SQL Server 2019. A few words about functions. A new function called Dataview Json, which is added to the existing repertoire of Dataview to XML, Dataview to text, so that if you have an example for this kind of a data view, then Dataview Json would bring on a JSON of this kind. It's a flat JSON file, but again, it represents the data view, the current data view, and of course, it represents the fields that you've chosen within the Dataview to JSON function. So it doesn't have to be all of the fields in the data. We have two new file open and file save dialog functions that are similar to what we already have for RIA and mobile, which is the client file open dialog and client file save dialog. This replaces the old file DLG function that was really very limited in its use. So these are two good new functions that have lots and lots of options. Have a look at them. We have a new function called user write get, which retrieves a vector with all of the rights that belong to the currently logged in user. That brings on an added value, so you don't have to check each write with the write function. You simply have a vector of all of the rights, and you can run whatever logic on the set of rights that you need in order to understand what you can or cannot do in your application with this user. We support, regarding mail functions, we now support Tls and Ssl using a new Java framework, so that, for instance, if you need to connect to Gmail, then you can, because there you need TLS in order to connect. So you have an additional argument in the connect function, and that tells Magic whether you're going to use TLS or SSL. We also have a new function called mail format set, which allows the developer to determine which kind of format the mail will use. It could be HTML or plain text. And all subsequent calls to mail send or mail message text will be using that format. We have a new function that clears the cache on the client side. This is for rich client applications, mainly good for again, erasing the cache when you don't want the user to deal with that kind of stuff, when you've upgraded with a new version of your client application, and you simply want the cache to disappear, then you can use this function, and the end user will simply not realize it, but his cache will be erased. And I think this is the last one. If you recall, a few months back, we removed the Oracle JDK from our offering because of a new limitation by Oracle. We've now added back a new Open JDK that, in terms of licensing, we're allowed to do so. So now we've added this offering to 4.7, which means that when you install Magic, we install a subdirectory with Open JDK, and you don't have to deal with installing Java, which again is an added value and makes life a bit easier. So I think we've reached the Q&A stage. Guys, Duzi, you want to take control and see if there are any questions that we need to answer?
Yes, Yuval. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for this. Yes, I have a couple of questions. First of all, just one moment. I have a question from Hans. He's asking, what can you guys do about training on several features like Angular mobile?
Okay. What
Is
can
that
we
a
do? I
question?
think that, yeah, if a certain customer wants training, I think the best thing to do would be to approach the branch, and we can figure that out. How to
Okay.
provide them with the best training possible.
Yes, maybe that's difficult for you to answer, Yuval, I think. What we are going to do is to get trainings up and running. This will also be the training for Angular and the new versions. We are working on that. Probably at this moment we still need help from HQ, but we will start doing training in 2021. And if there are specific questions, they can address it to me, and I can try to figure it out if we can do some personal trainings for the customer.
Okay, I hope Hans, you get an answer on your question. And also from Hans, can we have the exports of the samples shown in the presentations? So I think that's a question that is asked overall. So let me see. So do the users get this example source or project that you showed in the webinar so they can check it out themselves?
The examples aren't provided with the product, but of course we can send them along. That's not a problem. But they're not part of the online samples application. By the way, there are quite a few applications provided within the product. Even the end user functionality component, which is open source, and quite a few applications that provide samples across the board, covering almost every feature in the product. I'm saying almost because these new features aren't covered there yet. But of course, we can provide that as a sample.
All right. A question about the frozen columns. So once the end user decides to add another frozen column, is this remembered for the next time the end user enters the tasks with this?
No, it is not remembered. Each time the end user enters this task, it reads this information from the form, and according to that, the frozen columns are defined.
Okay. Studio a question about the studio. Can we run the studio from a network directory without actually installing the studio locally?
Okay, this is a good question because we've seen lots of customers encountering this problem where they try to install Studio on some network drive and try to run the Studio from there. This is not possible because of the fact that part of the Studio is the isolated shell, which needs to be installed. This is a limitation by Microsoft. I've seen users that actually just install the isolated shell on their machine and then run the Studio from a network drive. That kind of a combination is possible, but again, we very much recommend that you install the Studio on your development machine and run it locally. That would be the best solution, and of course the runtime can still be run from a network drive, what we call an Xcopy installation. That's possible.
All right. Question from Gijs. In the scroll bar, can we use the slider instead of scroll here?
Yeah, but when you use the slider, when you drag the scroll bar, then you actually do a page down or page up, one after another. The scroll here option, since we know how many records in Dataview, is allowed, and we put you directly on the right place in the Dataview. That's what's good about it. So one thing, you see that the scroll bar really represents the number of records in the Dataview, and two, you can actually reach whichever record that you want just by doing a scroll here. But pulling down the scroll bar would be a bit of, it's a bit inefficient.
Okay. Peter, I think this is a question for you. Magic Benelux and Nordic now split it? Is that so?
No, I don't know whose question this is, but
This question comes from Klaas Bouke.
Klaas. No, it's still Magic Benelux and Nordic. So we are. It's not split.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks to the COVID, we cannot travel a lot in foreign countries. But when this is over, we start planning to go to the Nordics also. And of course, we also will start meetings and phone calls with the Nordic customers. Because we just took over in the 1st of July, we focused for this moment on the Benelux, but we will focus on the Nordics next month and next year.
Okay. A question from Andre: is scaling also an INI setting? Do you know what I mean with that?
Yeah, there is a special flag as far as I remember, but I have to look that up in order to enable scaling across the board. But in general, scaling is not an INI setting. It's a setting on the form level. You can set the form to allow scale, yes or no. But again, I'd have to look that up. I think there is a special flag that allows you to scale across the board. But I will check that out and get back to Doozy and send you the answer.
Okay, that's okay. A question from Andre: my SQ gateway still ODBC or is it native?
The MySQL gateway is ODBC based, yes. It's still ODBC based. It will stay that way unless we come to a conclusion that we need to rewrite it from scratch as native. Right now, yes, it is ODBC based. It has its tweaks and twerks that have to do only with MySQL.
Okay. Question from Peter: can XPA 3 applications be migrated directly into XPA 4.7, or do they need specific migration steps?
Okay, that's a good question. Magic XPA 3 applications don't need to be migrated to version 4. They simply need to be opened by version 4. There's no need for an export import. You just open the EDP, and slowly but surely your sources will move to be 4.7. You don't need to do anything. Just open the project. Just be aware of the fact that from that point on, you will not be able to open that same project using version 3. So keep a backup of your application and simply use your version 3 app with version 4.
All right, I hope that gives an answer to your question, Peter. A question from Klaas Bouke again. Runtime XPA 4.7 now supports 64 DB clients like Oracle 64 bits.
Yeah, the runtime XPA 4.7 engine does support 64-bit, providing you're running in background and not in foreground. Okay, so you need to be running in background. That means no UI. That means that your engine either supports a rich client application, a web client application, or a merge application. It's not a client-server application.
Okay. I had also another question. It was about scaling. Can a developer provide a set of other scaling percentage?
No, this list is hard-coded, but we're thinking of allowing soft-coded lists.
Okay, and there was also someone who raised their hand, but I'm not sure if it's still accurate. Ruud Luik raised his hand. I don't know if Ruud Luik wants to say something or wants to ask something. Let me see. I don't think he's responding, no. So we will move on. And for now, I think I have all the questions answered. Let me see if there are new questions already. From Frank. All right, I don't know how this question, I have to ask this question, but it says EAT on replacing @Angular HTTP with @Angular common HTTP in @Magic XPA engine? Question?
Yeah. Yuval, do you have anything intelligent to say about this? I'm not sure really I understand the question here. I see placing Angular HTTP with Angular common HTTP.
Frank, is it maybe possible to define your question? I will move on to a question of Andre. Is use of auto increment fields definable within Magic?
Sorry, I didn't. Can you repeat that question? I see it. Auto increment fields definable within Magic. Yeah, I think that this was shown by Oded, the use of auto increment. This is an option within Magic, yes.
Okay. I have the question of Frank again in Dutch. He's asking when do we expect that Angular HTTP is updated to Angular common HTTP library?
Duzi, I think we will write this question down and ask
Yeah.
HQ to answer it, and we will come back to Frank by email because we don't know the answer at this moment.
I see that you wrote another comment. Deprecate. Okay, we need to check that out and get back to you.
Yeah, we will get back to Frank. I also saw a question if this session is recorded, and I think it is.
Yes, it's recorded, and I will also export it and put it on the YouTube channel of Magic Benelux. So, and they will also get a link afterwards so that everyone can check it out.
Great.
I think this is the end, right? I don't know if Yuval or Odette wants to say something, or Peter.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining and spending your time with us.
Yes, I would also, Peter.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I want to thank all the attendees to watch this webinar, and my special thanks to HQ, Yuval, Odette, and the other Yuval for helping us out here. We hope to see you soon again. We are trying to do more webinars in future, so be welcome to go to the next webinar. We will send emails when and the items we will handle then. Thank you all and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Yes, have a nice day. And if there will be any questions, you can leave them after the webinar. Also mail them to us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.